right, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. It is George. It is George. All right, so I started recording again. So for Cameron, he has, as I said, he doesn't have to worry because I tell you, I record every class. Everything I said is recorded, so we're good. But let's go back to where we were. Let's go back here. So we're at cytoplasms and protoplasms. So let me get a diagram quickly to get protoplasm, because it seems like it's the first you guys are hearing of it, right? Copy.
Yes.
All right, one moment. All right, there we go. I'm gonna copy this image. Let's paste it here.
So I'm going to share screen.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's go back and share screen here. So here's the protoplasm. All right. All right, can you see that picture? All right, good. So this protoplasm has two main parts, the cytoplasm and the nucleus. Let me see if I'm recording. Okay, good, we're recording. Let's understand what these are important for. So let's write this. The cytoplasm is very important.
I know the cytoplasm, sir,
All
and
right.
the nucleus, but it's the first time I'm hearing of the protoplasm.
Right. So that's what you need to understand. The cytoplasm and the nucleus is contained in the protoplasm.
Okay, sir.
Right? So tell me, what do you understand about the cytoplasm?
Sir, the cytoplasm stores the food, if I'm correct.
All right.
Or is the like substance in the cell?
Okay.
You just need that, or
Right.
which one, as I said.
So look at it for me. So you're right. You're right. But the main reason why it's important is because it has another thing attached to it called the mitochondria, otherwise known to have the mitochondria. You ever heard of that one?
Yes, sir. We're actually doing this. We did this in science.
That's good. That's good. So where are you in terms of preparing for HSB exam?
Well, we did food chains, and then now we're doing cells. That's only 2 topics I've done, sir.
So cells. So you're on this topic as well, right?
Well, we did it in science, but we moved on. But yes, I understand some of it, sir.
All right. So that's good. That's good. That's good. Because what we're gonna do now, we're gonna talk about cell differentiation and selected cells that make up the human body. So that's where we're going right now.
All right, sir.
All right. So let's just wrap up right here. So the cytoplasm is very important because it contains something called the mitochondria, and everybody know what the mitochondria is. But what do we always say about mitochondria? It is which is the powerhouse of the cell. Have you heard of that one before? Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. That's
Yes, sir.
right.
It's like the battery of the car,
Right, exactly. So
or the engine of the car, whatever you want to call it.
right. Okay, so now we understand that the cytoplasm contains the mitochondria, which is basically the battery of the cell, right? Which is under the protoplasm, right? That's very important for the cell itself, because that's what powers it and enables it to do its functions. Okay. Now, let's quickly go through the different other parts of the cells. So let's go here and say other parts of the cells that you should know. Write these for me. You should know.
The cell membrane,
Right. Okay, good. The cell membrane.
the cytoplasm,
We talked about that. Good.
the nucleus,
We talked about that.
the mitochondrion.
We talked about that. All right. Here's the rest of the parts of the cell that you need to know. Right. Exactly. The endoplasmic reticulum. Let's define it quickly. The endoplasmic repeat.
Ribosomes.
The ribosomes.
The
Ribosomes.
Oh, the ribosomes. Okay, gotcha. The ribosomes. So, Khalid, it's pronounced ribosomes, right? Ribosomes. Let's just to them. There's something called chromosomes as well. All right, genes. Okay. Selectively permeable. There's another one. It's gonna lead us into our next topic. So everybody understand the definition of each of these?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So this final topic, which is selectively permeable, will help us go into another topic, which is called diffusion. Let's just quickly understand what selectively permeable means. For a cell to be selectively permeable, right? What does the word selective mean?
That you have been selected for something.
Right. So if a teacher came to you and tell you, hey, you're selected for the honor roll, that means you were chosen specifically from a group of things. So for a cell to be selectively permeable, right, it chooses which particles or substances, are able to cross the cell membrane. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Cross the cell membrane. Which is due to there being a higher concentration, right, on one side than the other. What is this process called? So if you have something that's, yeah, what is this process called when there's a higher concentration on one side than the other and there's something moving across it? Right? Okay. You're close. So both of you close. Diffusion, right? That's what I want to hear. Right. So let's put that in right here. So let's just quickly define diffusion, right? So that definition is for diffusion. So it's just when you have something that's moving at a higher concentration to one side than the other. Okay. That was diffusion. Now, the general topic that we were under was the functions of the cell. So now that we understand the functions, let's close that up. And let's go to the selected. All right, there you go. Okay. So we're gonna now define diffusion and osmosis quickly, and then we'll go into the selected cells. My bad. Let's just define diffusion quickly. So just simply the spreading movement of molecules, and that's just small particles or substances or ions from a region where there are many to a region where there are few. And this can be understood why, because when you're in a crowded room and you have claustrophobia, which is where you're scared of tight spaces, your goal is to literally go to a space where there is few. That's what essentially happens to particles. If they have a cluster of particles, their goal is to spread out, divert, right? Few. Osmosis now.
Sir, can you put it down, sir? That wasn't finished.
Okay.
Diffusion.
Let's go osmosis quickly. Osmosis. This is responsible for the movement of water across cell membranes. Right? And what did we say cell membranes was? Right here, cell membrane. Anyone remember? Uh-huh.
It's the powerhouse of the cell.
Right, so its cell membrane houses the cytoplasm and the nucleus, which hosts now the mitochondria, which is the battery, right? So therefore, osmosis now determines whether water particles can go inside of the cell membrane. Okay? So in other words, it is partially permeable. Sometimes called semi-permeable. Okay. All right. All right. Now, as a little task for when you're finished with this class, you're going to look up the name. Look up the name for what it is called. It is called when water enters cells. It's very important, guys. So look that up as a little task for after class. So look up the name for what it is called when water enters cells. But we have one more thing to tackle, which is active transport. And George was talking about it previously. Sorry, active transport.
Sir, it's saying osmosis, sir.
Huh?
For the task you just said, sir, I looked up and it says it's saying osmosis.
You didn't have to tell them. Come on. Because I wanted to just read over I wanted to just read over their notes. I didn't have to tell them. We're good. All right, thank you. Okay.
Okay, sir. Active transport.
Mm-hmm. So come on, George, your turn.
Active transport is the movement of particles through the cell membrane against a concentration gradient.
Right. So this is now where you still see movement of particles, but it's just across the cell membrane without it being partially permeable or there not being any concentration. So that's right. That. So
It's the movement of cells from an area of low concentration to high concentration.
right, without the partially permeable situation, right? So it's the movement of cells from a region of high concentration. So what is the difference between active transport and diffusion? Anyone?
The difference between it is one is going from high to low and one is going from low to high.
Right? Good. All right, one more question. Let me ask Khalil, which one is going from a region of high to low and the other one from low to high?
Osmosis is going from high to low, sir. But active transport is from low to high, sir.
Right?
I mean high to low.
High to low, right? Right. Okay. Everybody finish with the notes?
No, sir.
Sure.
Okay.
So then I just leave active transport.
Now we're gonna quickly now jump to these types of cells that's in the human body. All right?
Oh, sorry, no.
Right. But oh, my bad. I forgot to add one thing on active transport. Right? There's something very important. This is where energy is used, right, from the cell itself. Right? And against a concentration focus. So it's essentially saying that, hey, the cell wants to move from A to B. The cell requires energy. The cell powers itself to actively move. Understand?
Yes.
All right. So it requires energy. And where does the energy come from? The mitochondria.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Let's go now to selected cells that make up the human body. Let me know when you're ready. All right. Now, Cameron, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Right. So I just realized that we finished osmosis as well, so we can explore that up. So we only have two things to cover before we finish. Cell differentiation. What do you know about? What do you know about cell differentiation? Quickly.
I honestly don't know anything
Okay, good. Now, I don't mean good as in good that you don't know. Good as in you're gonna learn about it now. So cell differentiation, right, is where right, cells form tissues, not the tissue that you use. Tissues in your body. Okay.
So what do you mean by the tissue we use?
So not the tissue that you use, the tissue that's in your body. But let's understand, what is tissue? Anyone? Let me tell you quickly before the time is up. Tissue is essentially a group of the same kind of cells. Right. So if you have a group of friends, you guys are the same kind of friend group. So you're essentially one definition of tissue. All right?
So cell differentiation, the cells are formed.
Yeah, so cell differentiation is where cells are turned into tissue by grouping up together.
All right, sir.
All right? Okay, now there's something called secretions. So let's go to secretions quickly. Secretions, right? Okay, when cells that are together and they make a substance. So remember, every cell has a purpose. Whether it's to actively move or passively move, they're making something or doing something. So when you have cells that are together and they make a substance, this is called secretion. This useful product is called secretion. An example of secretion would be, it's kind of cool, dopamine. So you know what dopamine is? Dopamine. Dopamine is basically the energy or the molecule that makes you happy. So when you hear that school is over, dopamine gets released. Right? Dopamine, right? Serotonin. Right. So these are examples of secretions where cells that are together, because your brain tells you that, hey, school is over, I'm happy. The cells come together and make a useful product called dopamine, which is essentially what makes you happy. Okay? Now that is essentially going to take us into the end of that. But before we finish off 2 minutes, we're going to list quickly the types of tissues. So let's try that. What are the types of tissues before we end? And your task is going to be to look up the definition of each type of tissue, and then that's it. So you have the epithelial tissue, right? The connective tissue, the muscle tissue. That's pretty self-explanatory, muscle tissue. And then you have the nervous tissue. Nervous tissue.
We learned nerve, not nervous, but okay.
I agree to disagree, because in my notes I have it as nervous tissue, but you can just say it's nerve tissues, right? Let's put nerve tissues just to nerve tissue. All right, so let's define 2 of them, and then your task is going to be to define the next 2. The nervous tissues is simply, this is the tissues that conduct impulses. So if you want to do something good for someone else, you had an impulse in your brain, and nerve tissues transfer that information. You understand?
Yes.
So it travels from organs to other organs with the brain sensing, with the brain at the focus. At the focus. Let's define one more. Right, yeah. So this is a part of the nervous system, which is what you got into after the exam, or the test, really. But let's define the hardest tissue so you can get the other 2 to do. The epithelial tissue. Let's define that quickly before class is over. Epithelial tissue. This forms coverings and linings for the body. Give me an example of a covering on your body. Right. Right, exactly. Your skin, your eyelids, everything. Okay, and that will take us now to the end of class. So your task is to tell me where are epithelial tissues found, and complete the other two tissues for homework. You have muscle tissue and connective tissue. All right. Other class is gonna start now, so I'll just politely leave. And George, if you see Mr. Blackkeller in the waiting room, give him the host for me.
Should